In tonight's developing story, with the present weather conditions, the epidemiology unit of the Ministry of Health warns that there is a threat of diseases spreading owing to the contamination of food and water.
අපිට වතුරෙන් සහ ආහාර අපවිත්‍ර වීම නිසා සිදුවිය හැකි රෝග තත්ත්වයන් මේ දිනවල වැඩිවීමේ තර්ජනයක් තියෙනවා.
There is a threat of diseases spreading owing to the contamination of food and water. There is a threat of diarrhea and other diseases spreading. An epidemic occurs very rarely. However, because of the contamination of water, diseases could spread.
කවානුවක වතුර අපවිත්‍ර වෙන නිසා මේ රෝග ඇතිවීමේ අවදානමක් තියෙනවා.
Health officials also point out that there is a threat of dengue raising its head once again. Those engaged in agricultural activities should also remain vigilant about yellow fever, which usually occurs in the aftermath of a flood.
පිරිසිදු ජලය භාවිතය chlorination තියෙන්න ඕනි කරන්න ඕනේ.
Chlorine should be used to purify water. Water should be boiled and cooled before consumption. Chlorinization should take place. Wells should be cleaned for this process. Chlorine can be obtained from health officials. Food prepared at home in a clean manner should be consumed. Sanitation is also important. Greens that are consumed should be thoroughly cleaned.
කන ආහාර වලින් තමයි මේ රෝග වැළැක්වීම කරන්න අපිට හැකියවන්නේ.
Bringing an end to the long drought that stretched over many months, many of the tanks have been filled to capacity following the torrential rain in the past few days. This water from the heavens has not only brought about a smile to many a face, but has also added beauty to the parched environment.
The water levels of many reservoirs, especially those in the Mahaweli system, have seen a significant increase owing to the heavy rains. This is the situation of the Polgolla reservoir today. This is how the Kotmale reservoir looked like this morning. The water level of the Rajangane reservoir in Anuradhapura has also risen. Meanwhile, the spill gates of the Algamore reservoir in Anuradhapura have been opened. The water levels of the Tisavawa in Nooravawa have also risen. This was the situation at the Min area tank today. The water levels of the Girithale and Thambalavawa tanks and the Parakrama Samudra have also risen. This is Devon Falls, a far cry from the trickle it was reduced to a few days ago. This is St. Clair's Falls, back to all its glory with the rains.
Water levels at Mahaweli and other reservoirs recede due to dry weather at the beginning of the year. Farmlands in the north central province and many other areas damaged. A water crisis cropped up as the farmers cultivated more than they were allowed to. Water levels at the Kotmale and other Mahaweli reservoirs see a rapid increase following heavy rain in the past few days. A water management meeting to be held on the 5th to decide on water usage in the next Maha season. Will the farmers be properly guided so that past mistakes will not be repeated?
For a country with an agricultural base, water is as valuable as gold. The local saying, "Do not waste even a drop of water that falls from the sky," gives added weight to this. But do we give the same priority given to the conservation of water in the past today?
The ancient kings of Lanka used various means at their disposal to conserve water and establish a strong agricultural economy. Thousands of years later, we are still reaping the benefits of this proud heritage. According to ancient records, this country was home to around 20,000 tanks. In comparison today, we have only a fraction of such tanks that can actually be used. Although factors like population growth and environmental change have contributed to this reduction, we must ask ourselves as to whether we have given enough priority to water conservation. Although the massive reservoirs built by the ancient kings have been maintained and to date serve their intended purpose, thousands of smaller reservoirs have gone into ruin.
When we are talking about storing water, we have inherited a good system of storage from our ancestors. That's a small I'm talking about the small tank cascade systems. and they are located in such a nice manner so that water can be not only stored surface, they can also be stored on underground, and use it carefully. They had a management system which we do not have now. So what we need to do is go back and revive those systems.
Have we done enough with regard to water conservation? Tomorrow, we bring you the various mechanisms that have been employed both here and abroad to conserve water.
We will be taking a look at on the flood conditions, but in the meantime, parliamentarian Anurakumara Disanayaka says that Ranil Wickremesinghe has shown that he is acting in a vindictive manner against the judiciary as a result of the courts issuing injunctions against certain decisions taken by him. Meanwhile, the Mahasangha points out that senior UN peers, including Party General Secretary Parliamentarian Tissa Attanayaka, are standing up for the independence of the judiciary. The Mahasangha says that the people are questioning as to why only Ranil Wickremesinghe is acting with hatred towards the judiciary.
Journalists questioned opposition leader Ranil Wickremesinghe today regarding the impeachment motion that has been brought against the Chief Justice. This was his response.
We
have already stated our stance. I think we must publish it in the newspapers. It is not about our opinion. The media has its own. Tell me your stance, or you ask us to reprimand them. You go have a cup of tea with the president. This is a game. You ask us to reprimand them and then go have tea with the president.
ඔවැනි පිළිතුරකට වඩා වගකීම් යුතු විපක්ෂ නායකවරයෙක් හැටියට ඔහුට තිබුණු ඔහුගේ වගකීම වෙන්නේ මේ පිළිබඳව.
Rather than that statement, as a responsible opposition leader, what he should have done was proclaim the stance of the party. He had an opportunity to tell the country the stance of his party, and we think he should have done that. I do not think that a responsible person would fail to answer that question at hand and instead take the question to a different level.
පිළිතුරු දෙනවා වෙනුවට වෙනත් තලයකට නැත්නම් පස්සේ වෙනත් තලයකට ගෙනියන්න මම හිතන්නේ වගකීම් යුතු කෙනෙකුගේ ක්‍රියාවක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
මාධ්‍යවේදීන්ගේ යුතුයකම සහ රාජකාරිය වන්නේ මාධ්‍යයක් ආවරණය කිරීම.
The responsibility and duty of journalists is to cover news. It is not to drink tea with the president or the opposition leader. Ranil Wickremesinghe being able to say something like that is, I think, the biggest controversy in the opposition. Ranil Wickremesinghe having coffee with the president is a different story. Ranil Wickremesinghe has no right to denigrate the profession of journalists. Ranil Wickremesinghe is denigrating the duties of the opposition, and that is a different story. As journalists in this country, we say to Ranil Wickremesinghe, do not fail to do your duty and point the finger at journalists. The responsibility that the UNP has as the opposition is being degraded on a nightly basis by Ranil Wickremesinghe, who has coffee with the president. There are a group of parliamentarians in the UNP who love their party. Today, Ranil Wickremesinghe is making a malicious attempt to hold disciplinary inquiries against these people and evict them from the party. I ask Ranil Wickremesinghe to look in the mirror and see if it is he who drinks coffee with the president who strikes various contracts, or is it the journalist who covers the news and has a cup of tea after.
ප්‍රශ්නාර්ථය කියන එක බලන්න කියලා මම ඉල්ලීමක් කරනවා.
ඔහුට අධිකරණයත් එක්ක ප්‍රශ්නයක් තිබෙනවා. පෞගේ කාලේ ඔහුගේ සමහර තීන්දුව තීරණවලට අධිකරණය විසින් ලබා දෙන්නද වාරණ නියෝග හේතු කොටගෙන ඔහු ඒ පිළිබඳව වෛරයකින්.
He has a problem with the judiciary. Ranil Wickremesinghe has shown that he is acting in a vengeful and vindictive manner. Due to injunctions that have been issued by the courts against some decisions taken by him, Ranil Wickremesinghe is enjoying this in his mind. He must be asking, have you had enough? This is what happens. Are you okay now? That is his statement. Therefore, it is meaningless that instead of taking a stance on this, the UNP is inviting others.
ඕක තමයි එතුමාගේ ප්‍රකාශය. මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ මේ ආකාරයෙන් වුණොත් මේ අදහස් එන එක කිව්වා. ඒ නිසා මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ පිළිබඳ එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂය හරි තැනකට ඇවිල්ලා ඒ වෙනුවෙන් කිසිවක් නොකොට වෙන වෙන අයට ආරාධනා කිරීම කිසිම තේරුමක් නැති කතාවක්.
අප ජනතාව වෙනුවෙන් අධිකරණය ආරක්ෂා කරන්න අවශ්‍යයි. ඒ කරන සියලු
We must protect the judiciary on behalf of the people. No matter what challenges we face, the UNP will work to reveal this lie by the government. We are preparing to fight against it. I wish to remind you of this on behalf of the UNP. I think the harm that this has done to us by the judiciary has not happened to any other party. But on behalf of the people, we are coming forward to protect the independence of the judiciary.
මේ අවස්ථාවේ ස්වාධීනත්වය ආරක්ෂා කරන්න අපි ඉදිරිපත් කරලා තියෙනවා.
අපේ ස්ථාවරය තමයි පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට දෝෂාභියෝගයක් ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න ව්‍යවස්ථාවේ.
Our stance is this. The Constitution has provisions for an impeachment motion to be tabled in Parliament. Since a Parliament Select Committee must be appointed, the UNP will join the Select Committee. We will join the Select Committee for no other reason but this. If the government were to debate their charge sheet alone and report on it, or if they are allowed to do so, it would be a serious matter. They will include their own observations and submit a report. What we say is that this Select Committee must be one which has judicial powers.
මේ තේරීම් කාරක සභාව අධිකරණ බලයක් ඇති තේරීම් කාරක සභාවක් වඩ පත් වෙන්න ඕන කියලා.
එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයේ මහා ලේකම් තිස්සත් නායක මහත්මයා ඒ වගේම දේශබන්දු කරු ජයසූරිය මැතිතුමා ඒ වගේම එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයේ නියෝජ්‍ය නායක සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස
UNP General Secretary Tissa Attanayaka, Deshabandhu Karu Jayasuriya, Deputy Leader Sajid Premadasa, former Army Commander Sarath Fonseca have all expressed views against this impeachment motion against the Chief Justice and the judiciary. They have voiced their opposition. In this case, the public are questioning if opposition leader Ranil Wickremesinghe is acting deaf and dumb because of anger he is harboring towards the judiciary.
විපක්ෂ නායකතුමා වශයෙන් රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමා නිහඬව ඉන්නේ ගොළුෙක් මේ නිස්සද්දව ඉන්නේ අධිකාරණය පිළිබඳව තියෙන වෛරයක්ද ක්‍රෝධයක්ද කියන එක මහ ජනතාවට ප්‍රශ්නයක් වෙලා තියෙනවා.
Time now for the newspaper cartoon of the day.
Over the past few days, News First continuously reported on how the incessant torrential rain disrupted normal life in many parts of the island. This morning, our news crew took to the skies for an aerial assessment of the areas affected.
Many areas went underwater owing to the incessant rains in the past few days. Areas in and around the western province were the most affected. We took to the skies this morning to assess the damage caused by the torrential rain in the past few days in and around Colombo and the prevailing weather situation. We flew above almost all of the affected areas for about an hour. What we were able to witness and what you can observe from the footage is that many low-lying areas in Colombo and its suburbs were completely underwater. Many low-lying areas in Biyagama, Ragama and Kadubala were completely underwater. As several parts of the Kalni River had begun to overflow, there was heavy traffic congestion on several roads today.
මෙයාදී ප්‍රදේශවල පහත් බිම් රසක් සහ මාර්ග කිහිපයක් තැන් වලින් සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම ජලයෙන් යට වී තිබුණා. කැලණි ගඟ ඇතැම් ස්ථානවල පිටාර ගැලීම හේතුවෙන් මාර්ග යට වී තිබෙන ආකාරයත් එම මාර්ගවල රථ වාහන තදබදයක් තිබෙන ආකාරය තමයි අපිට දැක ගන්නට ලැබෙන්නේ.